All right, let's just dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer. We're tackling a subject that's so massive, it literally defines our entire planet, the Pacific Ocean. But we aren't just looking at beautiful beaches today. We're exploring a place of extreme contradictions. It's a journey that's going to take us from absolute wonder to genuine terror and finally to some deep, burning curiosity.
To make sense of it all, here's our voyage itinerary for today. We'll be looking at its peaceful name versus its restless nature, the Mariana Trench and its deep creatures, the terror of the Ring of Fire, its world of trade and islands, the human threat to the ocean, and finally, some unsolved mysteries of the depths. Let's get into it.
Section 1. Peaceful name, restless nature. We're starting our journey right at the surface, just trying to wrap our heads around the mind-bending scale of what we're actually looking at.
So, the Pacific Ocean covers roughly 165.2 million square kilometers. But numbers like that are kind of hard to visualize, right? Try thinking about it this way. You could take every single continent on Earth, Asia, Europe, Africa, the Americas, Antarctica, Australia, squish them all together, and the Pacific Ocean would still be larger. It single-handedly covers a full one-third of our entire planet.
And here's the core irony of this whole explainer. Dating way back to 1520, the Portuguese explorer Ferdinand Magellan was navigating the globe, sailed into these waters on a wonderfully calm day, saw the shining blue water, and enthusiastically named it Mar Pacifico, the peaceful sea.
Well, that reality is a complete deception. This so-called peaceful ocean is actually the birthplace of the absolute most destructive natural forces on our planet. We're talking typhoons that can wipe entire cities off the map, tsunamis that cross thousands of kilometers to cause absolute devastation, and earthquakes that violently shake the globe.
Peaceful?
Yeah, not exactly.
Moving on to Section 2, Mariana Trench and Deep Creatures. Let's see how things change as we leave the sunlight behind and dive vertically down into the absolute darkest extremes of the Earth. We're plunging down to the Mariana Trench, specifically a spot called the Challenger Deep. At roughly 11 kilometers straight down, well, you enter an abyss where the pressure is a staggering 1,000 times greater than at the surface. To put it bluntly, it would instantly crush anything unprotected. The temperature hovers just a hair above freezing, and it is completely pitch black.
To make that abstract depth feel a bit more real, if you took the world's tallest mountain, Mount Everest, and just dropped it right into the Mariana Trench, its peak wouldn't even poke out of the water. Actually, it would still be drowning under 2 full kilometers of water. That's just how terrifyingly deep this ocean goes.
And as we slow down in this dark, freezing environment, we see that nature has engineered some real-life horror movie creatures. Things that thrive where human life is literally impossible. You've got the anglerfish using a glowing head torch to lure and swallow prey twice its size. You've got 14-meter-long giant squids with eyes the size of actual footballs. Oh, and the viperfish, with teeth so enormous they can't even fit inside its mouth. Then there's the Dumbo octopus, just flapping its elephant-like ear fins 7,000 meters below the surface. Life doesn't just exist down here, it has aggressively adapted. Which brings us to Section 3. Terror of the Ring of Fire. The crucial point here is that while the deep abyss is terrifyingly still, the ocean's edges are incredibly explosive. We're talking about a massive 40,000-kilometer horseshoe-shaped collision zone of tectonic plates. Because these plates are just constantly grinding and crashing into one another, this single perimeter drives 75% of the world's volcanoes and a massive 90% of all earthquakes. And here's exactly how an underwater earthquake transforms into a tsunami. First, a tectonic plate shifts, violently displacing water. That forms a wave traveling across the open ocean at 800 to 900 kilometers per hour. Think about that. That is literally the speed of a commercial jet plane. When it finally hits shallow coastal waters, it slows down, sure, but it builds upward, forming a devastating wall of water up to 30 meters high. This is the exact terrifying mechanism behind the tragic losses of life we saw in 2004 and 2011. But the violence extends to the sky, too. The Pacific's warm surface waters act like high-octane fuel, breeding massive superstorms.
Take Typhoon Haiyan in 2013, for example. It unleashed catastrophic 315-kilometer-per-hour winds, literally leveling entire islands in the Philippines. It's just a stark reminder of the sheer kinetic energy this ocean holds. All right, on to Section 4, World of Trade and Islands. Because right next to all this terror, the Pacific is also an incredibly generous world of isolated beauty and vital global commerce. Let's look at what it actually gives us. We're talking about isolated ecosystems like the Galapagos, where Charles Darwin famously studied evolution, all the way to over 25,000 distinct islands like Hawaii and Fiji. But it's also the literal backbone of our global economy. I mean, it handles 60% of all global maritime trade. Think about the smartphone or computer you're using right now. Its parts very likely cross the Pacific. Add to that 60% of the world's fishing, plus vast reserves of unmined polymetallic nodules and energy, and you start to realize the ocean gives us pretty much everything. It even acts as Earth's weather machine. Shifting trade winds across the Pacific dictate extreme weather across the entire globe. When trade winds weaken during El Niño, we see severe droughts in Australia and Indonesia, but massive floods in South America. When they strengthen during La Niña, the pattern violently flips. So the Pacific doesn't just have its own weather, it essentially controls everyone's weather. Section 5, Human Threat to the Ocean. We need to urgently shift our focus to how humans are repaying this vital, life-giving force. Spoiler alert, it's not a pretty picture. Floating right in the middle of the North Pacific is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. It is a massive, swirling vortex of trash spanning 1.6 million square kilometers. To help you visualize that, it's roughly 5 times the size of the Indian state of Rajasthan, and it holds an estimated 1.8 trillion pieces of plastic. Just let that sink in for a second.
And this leads to the grim irony of our actions, what we call the boomerang effect. We throw our waste into rivers, which carry it out to the ocean. Out there, the sun and waves break it down into tiny, toxic microplastics. Fish and other marine life end up eating these microplastics. And then, humans catch and eat the fish. We are quite literally serving our own trash right back onto our dinner plates.
Beyond the plastic, there's a massive invisible climate threat. Over the last 100 years, the ocean's average temperature has risen by up to 1 degree Celsius. Now that might sound small, but it's essentially boiling the ocean's more delicate ecosystems. It costs a staggering 50% of the Great Barrier Reef to die off in just a 2-year window between 2016 and 2017. We're also seeing ocean acidification, dissolving marine skeletons, and rising sea levels that are threatening to completely drown vulnerable island nations like Tuvalu. Finally, we arrive at Section 6, Unsolved Mysteries of the Depths. Having seen the size, the storms, the creatures, and our own impact, we absolutely must confront the eerie unknown of the deep. Over the years, we've recorded some truly bizarre, unexplained events deep underwater. For instance, in 1997, scientists recorded the bloop, an ultra-loud, low-frequency sound heard thousands of miles away that completely defied immediate explanation. And since 1989, we've tracked the 52 Hz whale. It's an unidentified whale that calls out at a frequency no other whale can hear, making it tragically the loneliest creature in the world. We've also discovered hydrothermal vents down on the pitch-black ocean floor, spewing 400-degree toxic water. Yet incredibly, life flourishes there. Bacteria have somehow learned to survive entirely on chemical energy instead of sunlight. This discovery fundamentally changes our understanding of biology itself, and it strongly hints at how alien life might actually exist on other planets in our solar system. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Scientists estimate that we have explored merely 5% of the global ocean. Everything we just covered today, the giant squids, the mind-bending trenches, the hydrothermal vents, that is all just 5%. So, what terrifying, beautiful, world-changing secrets are lurking in the dark, unexplored 95%? Let that sink in. Thanks for exploring with me today. Keep asking questions, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.